Tab fam, I am so excited because we're celebrating Black love. It is Valentine's weekend, and some of you are doing your Valentine's Day inside, some of y'all doing them outside or doing whatever y'all do. And some of us who are Valentine's, amen, I still love myself, are finding other ways to celebrate self-love. And so this evening, Pastor is introducing no other than Love McPherson. You might have seen her on Real Housewives or even on other channels in the news and doing all these things. She is a relationship expert, a family and marriage counselor. And she's going to come and drop some wisdom to us on tonight. Whether you're single, whether you're a couple, no matter where you at right now, she got some knowledge for you. And so let's tune in to the interview with her and Pastor. So let's get to it. Let's enjoy.
So grateful to be able to see each and every one of you. We are excited to share in this month. You know, February is Black History Month, and we are going to truly celebrate Black people. We're going to celebrate the beauty of Blackness, but specifically this entire month, one of the things we're going to focus on is Black love. That's right. Love for oneself, love in family, love in marriage, even love in singleness. And they're so significant and important. And tonight, I'm excited to have an incredible guest with us today. She's an internationally known relationship expert. I am grateful for all the many platforms that she's on. We're so grateful to have her just carve out a little bit of time for us here for Tab Global. I'm excited to bring tonight with us Love McPherson. Come on, let's celebrate Love McPherson. We're going to bring her on. She's coming from the backstage all the way to the front stage. And so we are so grateful to be here tonight. What's up, Love? How you doing?
Oh, I am so blessed, Pastor Charles. It's so good to be on your platform. It's
Man, this is incredible. Thank you so much. You look so radiant. You're just glowing.
Thank you.
Maybe that's what 30 some years of marriage will do to you, right?
37.
37 years. One man.
Okay.
That's it. Consecutively. Like there were no
like
breaks. It was
up all the numbers or
they all work together. I feel it. I love that. I love that. I've been knowing Love for a little while, a couple years now, and grateful for us meeting. She has helped me personally in a lot of areas. She is just in tune. Not only do I appreciate her insight when it comes to relationship, but she has such a strong spiritual foundation. And so as we were trying to figure out what we want to do for this month, February, Black History, but more specifically Black love, I couldn't think of anyone that I would absolutely love to bring to my church to introduce to the wonderful people of Tabernacle Baptist Church, and that's Love McPherson. So thank you, Love. Give us a little bit what you've been doing, what you've been up to, and we're going to jump into this conversation tonight about Black love.
Well, you know, February is one of my busiest months of the year because of Valentine's Day. So I have been on the circuit, working with couples, working with singles, doing TV, doing radio. And of course, the honor is here with Tabernacle Church. And so,
That's it.
And the amazing Reverend Dr. Charles Goodwin Jr.
Thank you. So before I get started, so people still celebrate Valentine's Day? That's still a thing. That's still a thing, even in the midst of what we're going on.
Absolutely.
Wow. You know, there's a lot of people that don't want to even deal with Valentine's Day. They bah humbug it like they do Christmas and everything else. So you think it's still worth celebrating?
Well, Valentine's Day?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I have my thoughts about Valentine's Day.
Okay.
I think it's how we celebrate it. This year, it is my goal to reinvent how we celebrate Valentine's Day. And I want it to be all about self-love, because that's a greater love, because you can't even love others without loving yourself. And so the whole pick me, I am validated if you choose me. I am somebody if I choose you, and I am somebody when I give you the best gifts, and I have to compare it with my counterparts. All of that stuff is so commercialized, and I just believe that there are so many things that are actually will crush your self-esteem and your level of self-love related to the holiday sometime than there are that will pick it up. Because if I look at my Valentine with my husband, one of the things that I will say is I don't sit there and judge my husband by February 14th. I judge him by all of the days of the year surrounded. And because he has been there for me in more ways than candy and chocolate and balloons, that means more to me than any of that.
Wow. See, you done already gave me the segue. That's how I want to start. As we think about Black love, and even before we get into covenant marriage, and once again, congratulations to you and your husband, 37 years, got a wonderful and beautiful family, and then singles during this time and navigating that space. I think what you started with is what I want to start with as we try to create the foundation of Black love. Can we go even further into that? Because I will say one of the things that I have noticed is that most people really have a problem loving others, and that first issue is because we do not love ourselves. What do you feel are boundaries or barriers that a lot of people, especially as we are looking at Black love? I'm loving Black and brown people. I am all for us now. You see what I'm saying? We are down for the cause
Yes.
all day long. Why do you feel, especially when you look at our communities, why do we struggle with that self-love and loving ourselves?
You know what? That's an excellent question. And that really is the start of every conversation. Why are we struggling? And because you are addressing it as Black love, that's equally as important, because there are struggles that Black people have endured that are unique to ourselves. And what I have found in working with thousands of couples and singles is that literally there is so much untreated trauma in our neighborhoods. And what happens with trauma is trauma distorts how you see yourself. It makes you see yourself as unlovable, unworthy, or things like that. The levels of neglect, abuse, things like that. Those are literally assaults on our self-concept. Our self-concept is how we see ourselves. And see, Satan is coming for one thing. He's coming for your image, because you were made in the image and likeness of God. And so if he can crush your image, then he's got you. And the best tool to do that is actually the absolute best tool to do that is trauma, because it plants in you a different image of you. And by the time somebody shows you, with overtly or covertly, that you don't have time for you or whatever the case may be, you begin to adopt that same mentality for yourself. Some parents are abusive enough to say it outright. You'll never be nothing. You ain't nothing. You this. They actually heard the messages. Those are overt messages. But some are covert. Why wouldn't they fight for me? Why wouldn't they show up? Why was I that child waiting at the window? Why was my mom on drugs? Why was this happening to me? Why did that guy rape me? Why was I molested and everybody said shush because we can't talk about it? Why did these things happen to me? Why was I a victim of domestic violence? So literally those assaults on your self-concept, your self-worth, end up being trickling down to your self-esteem, how much you're worth. And then it ultimately affects your a level of self-love. Because if you can't love the little girl who was molested, if you can't love the little boy who was abandoned, if you can't even love the teen girl who was ghosted, or who the divorced woman, if you can't love your entire story, then what you are doing is you're abandoning yourself. You are neglecting and rejecting your own self. And rejection is not love. Rejection is fear. So you fear the parts of you that hurt, which leads us straight into the conversation that you want to talk about, which was COVID, which is literally making it where we stopped and we paused and we heard ourselves. And we had to face those the little wounded child. We had to face the wayward teen. We had to face the bruised adult. And we didn't have the distractions in our way where we could just say la 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 la. We didn't have that liberty. And many people sat in rooms where they were abused by their parents. Some people sat in rooms where they were divorced and rejected or beaten by their spouses. And some just felt loneliness because of how they feel about themselves. And they had always self-medicated with people, with relationships, with things, with busyness, with work, and they didn't have their drug of choice anymore.
That's heavy. I really think, and I will say that since COVID, and even we can take this back pre-COVID, I think what you have really illuminated is something that most of us don't want to talk about, because every one of us has some experience and some level of trauma,
Yes.
despair. It doesn't matter who you are. And
No
one of the
matter who you are.
challenges that I think also affects people who are believers is that sometimes we can put on the facade and we mask our dysfunction with faith, right? Let me see if I can
Yes.
explain it. So, because I love God, I try to act as if that's it, and I don't have no problems. I don't have anything that I've wrestled with, nothing that I still have a hard time letting go of. And so I do see it more prominent in church, and people follow, because most of the time they say, Pastor, I'll be all right. I'll just pray about it. I'll be fine. I say, no, I think you just need to get some counseling too. Like, don't just settle in a space of just accepting this, but you're going to have to face it in order to fix it, right?
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of the issues are. What are some of the things you say to people who come to you with these moments? Well, let me say this. How many people have you come across that don't even acknowledge that this is an issue?
Well, I think that what you said about how the church handles things sometimes, and they mask it with faith. And you know what that's called? In psychology, that's called spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is when you don't address a thing. You just bypass it with, somebody died. God needed a flower. Why he got to take my flower? My uncle or my mother or father. And so we just put little glossy things, it's gonna be okay. And we bandage it, but we don't heal it. And so what you're saying is exactly what happened. So by the time they reach me, the most important job that I have when somebody comes to me is I need them to feel safe, because we have not seen therapy, counseling, coaching. We have not seen that as safe, because um, because our mamas told us, don't tell my business. We kept so many secrets, and that goes back to slavery. We had to keep all kind of secrets. And so we have been conditioned to keep our secrets and keep our pains and keep it masked and keep it in the house, and don't tell somebody that Uncle Buster is a pedophile. Don't tell them about dad beat me last night. All of this that is happening, we say shush, don't tell my business. And because of that, we have lived in our pain. And it doesn't even have to be harsh stuff like that. It could be racism. I had a wonderful family, but I found racism when I went to high school, to be busted in high school. That was an absolute uh, destructive trauma in my life, because it affected my self-concept. I am thought of this because of the color of my skin. I had never experienced that because I grew up in a black neighborhood, black schools, right? And then it could be just where you are at the school. You're in the slow class. They've labeled you. So now you're dealing with that. It could be something a teacher says. It could be something a student says. So it's so many big traumas and small traumas that we have to distinguish, but that we can still feel the pain of all of them. So when they come to me, they need to feel safe. They need to feel like they can share, that they will never ever have to worry about confidentiality being spilled. And then I have to make them believe you're not crazy, because that's the first. I know that sounds crazy. I know you probably think you're not judged. You will not be beaten with the Bible. You will not be condemned. You will not be emasculated. None of those things will happen on my platform. I want you to leave with the same respect that you absolutely came in here on. So that is really important to me too. So just making people feel comfortable in that space to talk. And then you have to listen, because what has happened is this: when there is neglect in the home, and when there's so much trauma in our homes and in our neighborhoods, people have found their validation by paying attention to others instead of paying attention to them. Even children that age appropriately, where they were supposed to be able to just free and playing, and it's all about you and it's all focused on you or whatever. No, they were focused on their mother's okay. Is my daddy okay? Is there going to be food in the house today? other issues that should not have to impact a child. They're so used to not just taking care and looking at themselves and saying, but what do I need? What do I want? They have not, the parents, see, the drugs and things that were dropped into our neighborhoods, especially in the 70s, they literally didn't give our parents the ability. It's neurological. It's not your self-worth, which a lot of kids interpreted it as, but it was not that. They didn't give them the luxury to scan where you could be sitting there next to your child and they come in from school and sit in the car and you're like, everything okay?
Mm.
They didn't have the luxury to do that because they were trying to self-medicate their pain, and they were totally focused on the next high and raising themselves up. And so what ends up happening is you focus on them, they focus on them, and you neglect yourself. And then you become an enabler because now you're just focused because that's the only time you have self-worth. You are a codependent because that's the only time that you find that just fixing people like you had to fix everybody else was where you found your validation and who you were. And that is a problem because we are so imbalanced. And after all of that, we're saying, go into relationships and for the rest of your life, love somebody, love yourself, fulfill a vow, fulfill a covenant, and be fine. And pray
And pray.
though.
Yeah, and pray. That's interesting. I think where you are really starting and taking us is a lot of what I've seen in conversations with a lot of different people throughout the years. I will say that one of the main things I've seen is a lot of people don't want to face themselves. And
Yes.
so I always say it was an interesting thing I said to people. You see people moving, but you don't know what's motivating the move, right? Some people are running to something and some people are running from something. All you see is the movement, but you don't know
Yes.
the motivation behind the movement. And
Yes.
so as you think about that, especially as people are thinking about relationships, and I think what you did say was also powerful, is I can own it without being a victim to it, right?
Yes. You absolutely can.
Can you unpack that? Because I think some people feel that if I own it, then I'm a victim of it. Woe is me. But I think honestly, you can own it and not be a victimized or be a victim of it. What when you hear that, what do you think?
That's a very important that you're bringing this up, because what I always talk about is there is love and then there's relationships. And I always talk about how a lot of times we think the quality of the relationship is indicator of how much you love me. But that's not always true, because see, love is a commitment. That's a decision. For 37 years, I have made a decision to love my husband, to wake up. It is, and I cannot ride 37 years off an emotion, off on the high. Oh, he makes me feel. No, he doesn't always make me feel that way. But I'm still his wife, and I make a decision, and my integrity decides. And this is that's period. This, on the other hand, is relationship. Relationship is different. That's communication skills, conflict resolution skills, listening skills, all of those different skills. We learn those skills by our parents, or core relationships, how people relate to us and how they relate to each other. And that's how we learn those type of skills until we relearn it better. So a lot of times we walk out with all those dysfunctional skills that we learned. What are we doing? We're multiplying after our own kind. But it's the fallen kind. It's the dysfunctional kind. It's the broken kind. It is the traumatized kind. And we continue in our DNA, in our behavior patterns, we continue to multiply after our own kind. And so what ends up happening is we take those faulty skills. The first thing we do is we say, these are my skill set. Who can I match to that skill set? And so and this is so subconscious, but a lot of times we're like, oh my God, you remind me of my daddy. And I don't even like my daddy. You act like my mama, and I don't even want you to act like my mama. But let me tell you something, but you got skills. You know how to ignore your mama. You know how to hurt and forgive your daddy. You know how to be in love with a cheating man, because your daddy was a cheater, a serial cheater, but yet he was a good man. So when you pick that good man, I know he cheated on me. He's a serial cheater, but he's a good man, so I can stay. Because you have skills for that. Whether you want to use them or not, that is what you're using. And so what you have to do is you got to learn how to get some better communication skills. You got to learn how to get all the skills that you need in order to have quality relationship. Let me tell you a story. My husband, you know, he's 6'9". He plays basketball. He used to. We beyond that. We got a mortgage. We can't be out there on the court doing all this stuff. And so we but he was saying, but he has coached. And so he said, Love, one of the problems with the players that come to play team sport is street ball messes them up. And I said, why does street ball mess them up? He said, because it's so unstructured and it's a different motive. He said, when you're playing street ball, it's all about you. It's all about, hey, I don't have to pass. I want to show you my skills. I want to stunt. I want everybody to wow me. It's all about me. I'll pass if I have to, but I got to do it behind my back. He said, and they want to come into structured ball playing street ball style. He said, and it's not efficient. He said, it's not sufficient to win a game. It has to be a team mindset rather than an individualistic mindset. We go into marriage the same way. We want to play street ball marriage. We want to have street ball relationship. It's all about me. See, what about me? Give me the ball. I'm a drill. No, it's a team sport, babe. You got to be considerate to that other person who's closer down to the court than you. You gotta learn the skills of how to pass correctly, not just so that you could be the showboat, but so that everybody, the ultimate goal is we win. But unless you have a we mentality, you will have a street ball me mentality.
Wow.
And so that's the problem with relationships.
Let me unpack that, because I really love that analogy of the decision. I know you're going to get into that when we start talking more about covenant. Can you unpack that skills piece? That was really good. I had never really heard it articulated that way. Can you unpack that a little more, just for those who are listening? Because that was incredible to me.
You know, one of the things, the term that you're using is significant for me unpacking that, because the term that you're using is Black love, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes people say Black love. How's Black love different than white love and this and other loves, right? However, we understand that concept when we say Indian love. We know that the culture loves differently. The way that they fall in love is very different. It's unique to their culture. You may have arranged marriages or whatever the case may be. You learn to love that person, and the goal is different. In the Bible, that type of love was very different. When you go to different cultures, and it's not about me, it's about us. Every relationship is about the entire tribe. It's about the entire group. It's a communal approach. In America, we're on an individualistic approach to things. So it's all about us. So when we get into relationships, it's like, well, what do you want from marriage? I want some man to come and do this and this and that. Wait, excuse me. Love gives. So what are you preparing to give in this relationship? What have you set aside? What skills have you mastered and prepared yourself for in order to give to the relationship? Let's start with happiness. Can you give your spouse the gift of happiness? Can you say, I'm happy already? I don't need you to come and do a song and dance and entertain me and say, hope you like our show every morning and every night before we go to bed. I don't have to entertain you and make you laugh. You laughing before you get up because you have joy on the inside. Can you give me that gift? Both of us. Hand that gift of happiness. Why? Because we've learned to master the art of gratitude. We have learned to overcome and heal. We have learned to not be flaw finders, but to see people's good parts. We've learned the art of forgiveness. What my daddy, I can't stand him. I'll never forgive him. Okay, so you don't have the skill to forgive. Oh, so if I do something really bad, you don't have mastered that skill of forgiveness to forgive me, then for the job that you're trying to get into, you really don't have the skills for it, because you're going to be forgiven often. You might actually match one day that's 79 times 7 in a day, or 79 times 70 in a day. You might actually have to do that when you marry. So there are skills that you develop, character, because relationships expose your character. It is a character building factory. And if you don't want to grow, you will run. And so what I am saying to you is the skills of selflessness. That's what you learn on the court, right? Pass the ball. Any coach will tell you, pass the ball. You sit up there trying to stunt. No, this is the time to use your free throws are off. You're vulnerable. The way you're jumping for that ball, you're vulnerable to somebody else. So know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know your opportunities, know your threats. There are certain things you are doing in this relationship that are a threat to the relationship. Some of the things you're doing in single life are threats to married life. So you got to understand how this will impact your future. And you know what? That's the overarching thing, Pastor Charles, is legacy. This is not just for here and now. We are future thinking. If you as a pastor are simply thinking about this Sunday's sermon, if that's all that you have done, you are going to fail your congregation. If you don't have a plan of succession when it's time to go, if you have not thought out and projected what's going to happen for the future, which I know you already have, if you don't have that planned out, you leave your church vulnerable. You are the shepherd. So what do? Leave homeless sheep or sheep that have gone astray, sheep that don't even know how to find their way? Why? Because all you was thinking about was the here and now. That's what I'm saying. When we go into relationships, we're not thinking about, I need my way now. We think about, what emotional skills will we leave our children? What emotional legacy? If I say that you're going to learn this through your family, you got to be intentional about communication skills. You got to be, I'm sure you're intentional about the money, but are you intentional about how we communicate and talk and teach? How we do conflict? Are you intentional about how we listen? How we literally sow into your self-concept? We shape it, not just with the word of God, but you do use the word of God, but also in taking time to listen, hear you, see you, be there. All of that will shape your concept that I am valuable enough to be heard and be listened to. I am worthy of love. This is what you do. This is a legacy you leave. You literally change the DNA, the trajectory of traumatized generations by changing this. And changing, of course, the spiritual, the prayer, all of that. But I'm saying a lot of times we have spent so much time focused on that, but we still, when we get home, we arguing and cussing and fussing, and after you finish your sermon, the kids are traumatized at home, and now they don't even believe you because you had their parents who's cussing them out and fighting each other up in the pulpit, and they're like, why don't you know that these people ain't right? And they doing this stuff at home. We got to get it together where we are not traumatizing our children, traumatizing a generation. We have been traumatized, but we can turn this thing around. We can be healed. We can go deep, excavate this stuff, see ourselves, and say, you know what? I am going to be intentional about my healing. You don't decide. If somebody tells you, I have cancer, oh, yep, well, got to do it. Wait, you're not going to try to do anything? You're not going to try to be healed? You're not going to go do anything about, they just told you this is curable. You can get this done. All you got to do is stop and pause and be well, go to the hospital, do what it takes. And you just going to tell me you passively going to keep going day to day and drop, and you the breadwinner of the family? You leaving a legacy, you leaving a whole stream of people who are going to miss you, and you not doing anything about it? Irresponsible. We have irresponsible love because we are not even trying to make sure that the quality of the love, the quality of the DNA, the Bible calls it iniquities, and the iniquities that they talk about is the sins of the father. Literally, when you look that up, the DNA ladder, it looks just like it says the iniquities is the bent. That word is the bent. that looks exactly like the DNA ladder, the
Wow.
bent, the generations.
Mm.
50% of your happiness will be about your DNA, your epigenetics, passed down from generation to generation. 40% of your happiness will depend on what you've experienced on the earth. 10% will be COVID,
Wow.
what you're experiencing now.
Wow. Love,
10%.
that's why I love you, love. Let me throw it in because I see some things and I want to take this because I think that imagery, being on the court, skills, would you say that is that is that learned or is that innate? How much of that would you say is learned and innate? And then also, I love the analogy of sports. Recently, we just had Kevin Durant coming back this year. He tore his ACL, I mean, excuse me, his Achilles about a year and a half ago, and now he's coming back. He's playing at such a high level. People are saying he's in potential running for the MVP of the NBA and comeback player of the year. The reason I raise him is you raise this analogy of playing in the game, having the skill set. But I also say you can have the skill set and still get injured. How do you manage those moments when I get injured? I done worked out. I done try to execute my skill set, try to operate, like you said, in those things that to help, but I get injured. I get hurt,
Oh,
right?
that's so good.
How do I get restored and then say, all right, I'm ready to get back in the game without fear and trepidation? Kevin Durant, every time he goes out there, there's a potential that he'll get hurt again, but he still wants to play the game. So if you could kind of manage that, and then I'll take you somewhere else with it. But I love the
Such a good,
imagery of it.
I
Yeah.
just absolutely adore that question. Okay, so here's the thing. Kevin Durant, he knows that 90% of his game will be, after an injury, will be right here in your head. It's all about fear. And if you allow fear to happen, and if you start protecting the pain rather than doing the game, you will get hurt again. You will get hurt just trying to protect your injury too much. If you too focused on your injury, you will be distracted from the game. So you literally have to take risk. You have to get back out there. You got to believe, and he would have never made it to where he was unless he believed and saw himself being able to. If he said, if he did this, wow, I remember so and so, he was a player. He never came back in the game. He had the same injury. Yeah, and yeah, y'all, you remember so and so? Yep. His injury ain't never been the same. His game ain't never been the same. Oh yeah, and that one, yeah, those people. I'm telling, it's so many of these people. This game is a bad game. We shouldn't even be playing this game because it injures you too bad. It could injure you for life. We could have that dialogue. He could have had that dialogue and talked himself straight up out of the game. We could, but you know what? People talk themselves out. Yeah, it's too many people. These relationships, they ain't working. These women, you can't trust them. These men, they all dogs. You can't trust them. Yeah, relationship, I don't even see any benefit because they looking at everybody else instead of saying, you know what? If I get the right skills and I find somebody who is dedicated to their skill set and we have the same vision and we have the same goals, we can build a successful legacy instead of seeing, Love McPherson did it for 37 years. So-and-so, because if we start focusing on the negative, we won't look at the positive. It's a lot of people. I'm not the only one. A lot of people who have made it. They're not even cellmates. They're soulmates still. And so, but if Kevin had to, it was a mind game and then a determination. And guess what he had to do? He had to push past the pain to be healed.
Wow.
You if you want it easy, if he just wanted to just jump back up, he could have used the excuse and laid back down. Wow. But he had to feel the pain and do it anyway. Just like you do anything else. If you're good at what you do in any industry, any business, any endeavor, you feel pain and then you push past the pain until you get the gain. That's where you do.
Wow. That's good. Let's take it here because I think what you said before you started that was very intriguing to me. The uniqueness of Black love. I'm one that says a lot of times, most of us who may struggle in the area of relationships, self-love, is because I don't think that we take into a consideration enough of our culture and
Mm-hmm.
how it gets indoctrinated. You lifted up the analogy of everyone understands Indian love and how their love is different, arranged marriages, those kind of things. But the Black love is unique within our culture because we have been taught we don't need women perhaps a lot in their homes. And I'm generalizing, so please y'all don't send me no hate mail. But
Absolutely.
some would say I was told I don't need a man, right? Or men have been told, well, unless I am financially ready, then there's no need for me to even consider it, right? So you
Sure.
kind of are raised with these, what you call these skill set or these
Yes.
mindsets and perspectives that we've been given. What's some unique things you see about the Black culture that perhaps can be hindrances for love to be expressed within our Black culture?
That's an excellent question. This is what I see. Let's just start with the men because the men have to ask for, they're supposed to be the finders, right? So what ends up happening is the strategy of crushing the concept of marriage is put you in 60% of our men being raised in single family homes where they never see their role. Role shows you what your expectations are. I have clients who says I've had 3 generations of women. I don't even know what a man does in a household.
Mm.
What if there's a boy? He surely doesn't know what a man does in a household. Not only does he not see, but he sees his role as optional.
Hmm.
Because that super single mother, she got educated, she working, she bringing home the bacon, she taking care, she loved him, she nurtured him, she did all that stuff. What does a man actually come in here and do?
Hmm.
Besides the making of the baby and maybe sending child support, maybe not though. So now you have the men who see themselves as optional.
Hmm.
But you have the women who raised in the same home and they see themselves as superhuman and men as optional as well.
Hmm.
However, what the women want is they want to rest their masculinity. So they want a man to come and say, hey, I will take over. Something in them knows that they're carrying a heavy load. And then we are so, especially Black women, it goes back to doctors and saying they don't experience the same amount of pain. But we've
Yeah.
had to be forced to experience that pain emotionally and physically. And so now men come in, they see their mothers as superhuman. They see the amount of load they carry. You understand what I'm saying? As opposed to when you grow up, Pastor Charles, in a 2-parent household, you watch the dynamics of just how much your mother does and just how much your father does. When it's a working household where my mother was a stay-at-home mom, but I'm just saying when they understand their roles, they're fine with them and everything they've developed. I don't care how you divide them up, but when they're working as a team, you see the significance of a father. You see the significance of a mother. However, if that mother can carry that, what I have found is that men who've had super single mothers, I call them super single because they're just really amazing. Super single mothers, what I have watched them do is marry a fathered daughter, somebody who, like myself, who has been in a household with 2, and expect me to perform at the rate of their single mother.
Wow.
And I don't even know what that looks like. Now, my husband was a 2-parent household, so that wasn't what he expected. But I wouldn't even know how to begin to get out the bed, and you expect me to perform like that because that's
Wow.
not what I've been conditioned to see.
Mm.
I'm sure I'd have to rise to the occasion if I needed to, but that's not natural in me.
Wow.
Now, the other thing is this. A lot of times because the mother is needing that emotional, connection, sometimes she will connect so strongly to the son until he feels like, I've been married all my life. Why do I need another wife?
Mm.
And so they coddle the sons, they marry the sons, and then they treat the wives like the side chick. And so that's a problem. And I'm going to get to the women. I don't bash men. I'm going to get to the women. The third thing is this. The third problem in Black love is the men will see a father who was not there for them. They become very, very aware that they miss the love of a father, and they vow, I will never treat my kids like that. I will be a good father, and they do. They become very conscious to be an absolute amazing father, but they never thought about the consciously being an amazing husband.
Mm.
They didn't see that role. They didn't even know that they were missing that role of husband. And so the role is not even a conscious thought in their mind as a go-to. That's the
Wow.
men, the dilemma of our Black love. As far as the female, now she sees her super single mom. She watches her do everything. So a lot of times that mother is working and that daughter is more independent. Sometimes if the mother is on drugs or something, she's mothering her mother. She is mother. And sometimes if the mother is really irresponsible and bringing men in the home, and she's fathering her mother, because she's now the covering of her, saying and attacking the men who attacked her mother. So she becomes the father of her mother. So now as she is the father, she's bringing home money, she's working, she's taking care of her siblings. She jumps out of her role as child, jumps into the maternal role, into the protector role, and has to be conscious of everything around her. And father never showed up. Now she doesn't trust the man. She loses trust that the man will be there and step in and take care of her, because she's not experienced that covering, wouldn't even know it if it landed on her head. So now she goes into a relationship and a man who is a protector shows up. She does not know how to submit to that because she has not developed the trust of a man to cover her.
Mm.
And the man says, why won't you allow me? I feel optional. Absolutely, you're optional, because she has all the skill set to do it without you, because she learned it right here in the home.
Mm. Wow.
But what she does want is a lot of times what men don't see as the first thing they go to, because the men, like you said, are thinking, I need to make the money. And she's saying, only thing I'm really missing, because I am really making money, I'm doing well for myself, I know how to handle my business, but could you just love me?
Mm.
Could you devote your time for me? Could you fill the holes in my soul with just, I'm worthy, I need you emotionally, I will hold you, I will listen to you. And the man like, that don't seem valuable.
Mm.
And she's like, that's priceless. But you can't sometimes convince them, because mom acts so strong like she ain't need.
Mm.
So they don't see themselves as they didn't see the vulnerable woman who really needed. And so what I am saying to you is the disconnect. So now this is the other thing, as far as the woman is concerned. She wants the man. She wants to rest the masculine side of her. She understands innate that God put in her so much the need to be, a woman's greatest need is security. Man's greatest need is respect. But when she says, and then she's conditioned, things gonna be better if you can get relationship. It's gonna be good when that relationship comes. Somebody who loves you, somebody who marry you, somebody who chooses you. I know everybody else didn't choose you. Your daddy didn't choose you, but there's a man who's gonna choose you, choose to love you and want to love you. When that doesn't happen, she becomes angry. How vulnerable am I to a generation of men who don't even want me?
Mm.
If they had a choice, they wouldn't even choose somebody who looked like me, whose races look like me. So now that further creates rejection, further creates lack of significance, further creates, I have given you too much right to me to govern my destiny, whether I have children, whether children out of marriage, whether I have children and a relationship and all that I dreamed of. Because see, we sell the idea that if you're single, you'll be You can be happy single, but you'll be happier when you get married. Married. We sell that to the women. You'll be happier, not happy. You could be happy, sweetie. You need to be happy before you get married, but you'll be happier. You'll be significant. You'll be somebody once you're married. So now what am I? Nobody, insignificant, and only halfway to the quality of happiness that I could. Why? Because that no good black man don't want none but sex, and he ain't gonna marry me. So now let's fight. Let's resent. Let's be angry. And I can't stand you, and I can't stand you.
Wow. And that's just innate. So you're seeing that. Wow, that's deep. I've never heard that. Man, love, I love you, because that I've never really heard that, but it makes so much sense. Man, I've never heard it that way. You know, I had an interesting conversation with my staff this past week. And I was preparing for this week I said, you know, I'm excited to be interviewing love. And we're going to talk about Black love and this. And so I have a variety within my staff, single, married, you know, so I'm always kind of, you know, just getting ideas. And I raised something to them. I was asking we have some within my staff just newly married. And my grandparents were married 61 years before my grandfather passed in 2008. And I was saying to them, I was like, I'm not even sure if what my grandparents had would be what people want now. And because what I saw, I didn't see much public affection. But once again, I was adopted by my grandparents. I came in on the scene near the end of it. Now there had to be some affection because I got my mom and my uncles, you know what I'm saying? So, but I never saw it. So I get into it, you know, later on in their lives. I saw my grandfather come home. I mean, he was just home. He worked hard. He worked 40 years without missing a day. I saw my grandmother having to work as well, but you know, I saw these kind of roles, but it wasn't flashy. You know, one of the things that I think also hurts is social media and how many people are creating these fictitious kind of relationships, right? Like people want, you know, I wanted that Claire and Cliff Huxtable. I was like, you do realize that's not a real couple, right? Or we'll lift up, like, you know, in all due respect, Michelle and Barack Obama. Oh, I want that Obama kind of love. I'm like, I'm not, you know, you do realize he was the lesser. And she took a major risk on.
Yes, she did.
On allowing him in, you know, I mean, there was, you know, she was doing it. And so I think a lot of times we don't know what's behind the curtain. We don't know. We see these snippets, we see these pictures. And I think I've seen a lot of people struggle with that. I make that segue because I think what you said was this COVID piece and how COVID, especially with couples, is causing a lot of problems. It's funny. Let me generalize this, love. And it's interesting. Out of COVID, I know there was either two extremes that I'm seeing. A lot of couples are getting divorced, or couples are having babies. I'm seeing two extremes that have kind of navigated COVID. It has not done well. I think COVID exposed a lot of relationships were not as tight as they were because COVID disrupted rhythms. Some people were together because their rhythm worked, you know, but COVID made us have to spend a lot more time together than we even knew was kind of possible. And so what do you see when you're seeing COVID and you're seeing in a relationship with couples? What would you speak to that? Because I mean, I know your calendar has been just over the top
because of the COVID. Absolutely.
Yes.
And here's the thing about COVID. With every crisis, Pastor Charles, with every crisis requires a shift. If you stay and try to have the same relationship before the crisis, you will suffer. Because even your church, you can't have the same church. You have to face facts. You don't have the same church, and you will not have it after COVID if there is a such thing as after COVID.
Yeah.
It might be a smaller COVID.
Yeah.
But flu, we've had a vaccination. We've never been free of flu. Okay.
Yeah,
And
COVID not
so
going
it
anywhere.
just
COVID's gonna
mutates.
be here. Yeah, COVID's
Yeah.
gonna be here.
But
Yeah.
but but you can change. It can birth creativity, but you got to see that there's a brand new way of doing things.
Mhm.
And if you try to live in the old way of doing things, you will suffer. And pretty soon it will be so hard on you till you have to leave. Same thing in relationships. You've got to see that, okay, we're here together. What works and what's not. First thing that I did when COVID hit and we realized we were going to be locked in shelter in place, we called a family meeting. All of our family brought them in, discussed our roles, how we can make this work, what we need to do, how we can protect ourselves, and also the kind of stuff. We literally began to assign the new norm, the new normals for our household. Eventually, the new normal required me leaving a luxury 21st floor lakefront condo, no unobstructed, of Lake Michigan,
Mm.
because it was only 2 bedrooms, leaving it and coming to a nice big huge house, not huge, nice size house in the suburbs. I don't miss the lakefront one bit, because
Mm.
all it reminded me of in COVID was what I couldn't do.
Wow.
I look out, I don't see no bikes riding like I'm so used to. I don't see the boats out there like I'm used to. I don't see myself being able to go out there without the police saying, get back in the house. I don't
Mhm.
see that. I need some space. I have to put on a mask to get on the elevator to go down to my car in the garage. So when you begin to see that, you say, well, it's a different time in our lives. We want our family together. We want them close. We got to make shifts. A lot of couples have stayed and tried to do the same thing
Mm.
without making any changes. And they realize our way, we it doesn't work in COVID. For us both to be working at home and for the kids to be schooled. And now the fact that you don't participate in helping with the kids, it was one thing to just need a bath. It's a whole nother thing when I need you to step in and do
Mm.
some homework and sit through the e-school e-learning with me, and you're not used to it. It's one thing when we could just eat out all the time and go out. It's or bring in a cleaning service. It's another thing when the cleaning service is too scary, because we don't want to bring her in, because we don't want her to bring COVID into our household, and
Mm.
we got to clean ourselves. And then I've got to spend 8 hours with you talking or close to me, as opposed to seeing you twice a week because you've traveled, or few hours a day because you didn't get in until 8 o'clock. I have a lot of couples who are professional, of course, come see me. They're traveling, they're busy, they're running business. They meet up at night. They have nannies during the day.
Mm.
So families are just showing up. Think about it, by the time 6 o'clock, if you show up at 6, the first person maybe 6, and then all of a sudden you eating, getting kids to bed by 8, couple hours, I just gotta do whatever I gotta do. But not so.
Mm.
All day long, I get to see, oh, Johnny really do have a learning deficiency. That's anxiety. Oh, you got an attitude all the time.
Mm.
Some of them, and I'm just gonna be real with you as I have been on this thing, some were going through anxiety because they was missing their side chicks
Mm.
and side guys. And so it has been of a toll in every country. And this is the worst part of it. It has been a huge hit and devastation in domestic violence.
Mm.
And the people have not been able to get away from their abusers.
Mm.
That's the problem. The courts closed down. So, and the call is great. You literally are sitting there with your abuser because he can't really go too many places for COVID. So now you are more silent because he's coming back. You're going to sit next to each other during court online, because it's online. You're not
Mm.
going into a courthouse and testify about the man who's sitting right next to you. So people have been, there's a elevated amount of abuse, an elevated amount of divorce, and those people who had the skill set of teamwork and things like that, they have like they have been like, yeah, look at us, we got this.
So what would
And
you
they
say?
have, yes.
What would you give to couples? Because man, that was deep. Because I agree everything that you said. I think proximity and such closeness during COVID exposed the realities and the strength of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate what you said, that if you went in this thinking that we're just going to stay the same through this, then that's perhaps sign number one that is not going to last. And that's on everything. I will admit, even from church perspective, my whole mindset had to shift. This has perhaps, from a leadership church perspective, been the most anxious I've ever been, because everything I have built a 20-year ministry on is shifted. And I don't know what the other side is going to look like. And it's been an unsettling space. It's just been a place of uncomfort and uncertainty every single day. So I can just imagine how that is with relationships and marriage. What would you say
Yes.
to those who saying, love, listen, what would you tell us to now? I know we almost a year into shutdown, right? Well, this is February. Second week of March is when it kind of got real. You know, it was real, but then everybody kind of played with it, but it got real. We're almost a year into that. So what would you say if someone's come and say, listen, love, we've lasted like we did last close to a year. What would you say to us as a couple, people in marriage? What should we be thinking through? What should we be focusing on in this moment with this, everything that's going on?
You should be focusing in on the strengths. You should focus in on what has brought you this far, and and also what you feel you need to take it to the next level. Literally, I talk about this all the time because my husband and I do this annually. We do what's called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. That's something I've done for businesses and not for profits for many years, but we adapted it into our own relationships. So we sit down and we look at our strengths. What are the strengths of us? What do we do well that will complement this relationship? But we start with a vision. So, then that's the long term, the vision of what we believe we're called on the earth to do, our life assignment. So what's the strengths that we will use to make that happen? What are our weaknesses? The weaknesses can be, we are, any traumas could be weaknesses. Any financial problems can be a weakness if we mismanage funds and things like that. Opportunities. What are some opportunities for growth? What counseling or coaching or something like that. Then the threats. What are a threat to our relationship? And the threats are different from weaknesses because the threats are this: if we need creativity in COVID and we don't, and we are able to, we're weak in creativity, but we have good problem solving skills. We know how to Google and find it. Then that weakness can be compensated because our strength is our ability to research and find it. But if we don't have that, then that becomes a threat because the creativity we need, like for your ministry, you have to have creativity now to say, how do I engage the people and help the people during this time? But if you don't have that, it becomes a threat to your ministry. And though if there are people who are not being creative in ministry and listening to the people and what their needs are, and therefore they are failing because they are determined not to move to the left or the right. They want to continue and they just waiting on that day where they can have church as usual. You will not be creative. And it can look similar, but it will never look the same. And so what I'm saying to you is this: the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats is a very important thing. And once you get that information, you want to make sure that you use it to set goals. You begin to project into that 5-year plan. That's the strategic planning, one of the things you do for planning. So you use that in your relationship. I'm going to say this to the pastors as well, because in COVID, what I've experienced with pastors, and I've spoken to pastors' wives, I did about 40 some pastor wives. what I have talked to them about is this. There has been an attack on them in this. First of all, pastors have seen the problems of the people be so great, and they have never felt so helpless in their life to be able to solve them. Second, you have been traumatized to bury more people during COVID than you normally would bury in a year. You have watched the suffering of your congregation and the Black community. Number three, literally the adrenaline and the dopamine that comes from the interaction of blessing the crowd, that is a place of healing for even certain traumas. Because what people told you you were not, there's a reinforcement in the spirit when you are being used by God, and people are saying, praise God, thank you for helping me. And if you know that's your life assignment, just the spirit of the crowd has created depression and anxiety in the pastors, and feelings of why I'm not, just voids. And so, and it's a real thing, but they have had to be strong for the people, and they have been hurt so in such a devastating way. And to be able to lead a crowd that you can't touch, to lead a sheep that you can't get 6 feet near, has been hard on ministers.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's and that's a whole nother conversation. It has been difficult. I can't even put into words how hard it's been, and in every aspect of ministry. And man, that's a whole nother conversation. Love, we can definitely have that one, because I see that in so many different ways. And so yeah, thank you, because that is true. And speaking to that, and those who serve in ministry and life is ministry, it's been,
and their families.
Yes, families.
You might be a single pastor, but I'm sure you have a lot of married pastor friends, and so to come back out of COVID and have lost your family, have lost your wife, lost your husband, that's a real thing during COVID. Because I ain't never seen my husband this much. I ain't never seen my wife. I didn't know the condition of our kids was this way. Why? Because I've been on the road. I didn't even realize that I think he got weed up in that room. I didn't know this household was like this. I didn't know you was like this.
Wow. Love, this has been rich, man, and I want to honor your time. You have been incredible tonight. Thank you so much. You are just a jewel. Can you give us a parting shot? What would you say? What would be your final words to us about Black love? I know you've covered a myriad of topics. Guys, y'all need to go back and replay this and take notes, man. I'm sitting here like, man, I got to go rewatch some of this stuff, because you really explained and illuminated a lot of different things, from skill set, from us as men and women, and how we were brought up, Black love. And I love that SWOT analysis for couples. I think that is really strong to reevaluate it. I'm intrigued the fact that even after 37 years, y'all would admit there's still some weaknesses. That
yes, absolutely.
To hear you say that,
your marriage creates another challenge.
Listen, you saying that freed some people, because I will say one of the challenges that I hear most from younger married couples is that they feel that when they falter or go into a moment or season of just weakness, or just it ain't working, they feel like failures, because every older married couple that they've seen don't seem to have no problems. They just been doing it in love. And so to hear you say that, I think was freeing for a lot of people, a lot of young couples who are saying, it's just good to know after 37 years, you can still have weaknesses. So I don't feel so bad from the things that I've been navigating through and having to go through. So thank you for being honest and transparent and authentic in that. What's the final thing you would say to us when it comes to Black love, whichever way you want to go? What would you say to us?
I will say for the couples who are married, I want to make sure that what you do is you continue to date each other, whether it's virtually, whatever. You spend some quality time together. While you are quarantined with that person, you have a captive audience. Don't take advantage of it and run that person's ear. So also, take some me time, separate yourself. If you're in the presence of your kids and your husband all the time, it's going to be a problem. Don't get so caught up into quarantine fatigue, COVID-19 fatigue, until you take risk-taking behaviors and you bring stuff back to the family that you will regret and have to live with forever. So discipline yourself during that time. Make sure you spend time together, have sex together, create fun together, do new things together, spend time, talk it out, get counseling. Don't be impulsive with your breakups, all of that kind of stuff. For singles, I would say date yourself. Learn you. One of the greatest acts of self-love is self-awareness. Take this time to face who you are. See who you are. Don't run from it. Look at it. See what it is, and then make the necessary correction to make sure that you love yourself. I have a self-love workshop that's coming up this Saturday. It's free. Yes, you love free 99, right? So it's a self-love, and it's sponsored by Blue Door from Blue Cross Blue Shield. You can go to lovemcpherson.com. I'll teach you about loving yourself, self-love, and you can follow me at love _McPherson. Okay, that's on IG.
Say it again. What else? So what else? Your website. Where else can we see you? Let's throw that up and see. We had a lower third that we introduced for you. So you at lovemcpherson.com. What else did you say?
That's my website. And then my Instagram is love_McPherson.
Got you.
And I'm going to be hosting a self-love masterclass. That's going to be Saturday at noon. It's free. You can go to my website and sign up for that. And it's very, very important. It's free and it's sponsored, and I would love to see you all there. I'm going to give you more skills on self-love, singles, couples. Is going to be, because the Bible says, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind, and love thy neighbor as you love yourself. And a lot of times we say, and that he said that is the whole law to replace the Old Testament. We said, well, you just want me to love God then, right? That's what I need to focus on. He said, no. How can you love God but you don't love your neighbor? You can't love your neighbor who you see every day and say, I love God, and not love your neighbor and say you love God. You say, oh, okay, I need to focus in on loving my neighbor then. That's what I need to do. He says, no, wait, slow down. Love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Wow.
So Satan said, oh, I ain't got to worry about them going to church and loving God. I ain't got to worry about them loving each other. I just need to attack them with enough traumas where it will distort their image of themselves, feel unloved to the point where they don't love themselves. Because if they can't love themselves, they won't love anybody else.
Wow. Love, I love you. You are the absolute best. You are a jewel to the kingdom, to your family, to me personally. Thank you for years of your friendship, mentorship. You are truly just all that, and a cookout milkshake plus Snickers, which is my favorite.
It is such a blessing to be able to just be able to be a part of your life and to be able to bless you and be on your platform.
I appreciate you. Once again, Tab, thank y'all. Y'all appreciate love. Give her some love. Listen, I want to see y'all at this workshop this Saturday, but also hit her up and tell her thank you for rocking with Tab and for loving your pastor, PG. And so once again, love, thank you so much. We're going to hit you up, and we appreciate you. To God be the glory. This has been an incredible conversation. Now, listen, guys, we got something tomorrow. All the couples, make sure that you're registered. There's an incredible event tomorrow. It's kind of like a fellowship. We got some surprise couples that are coming in, and they're going to really have some fun with you. It's just going to be an easy Friday night that we want you to just have fun. So once again, this whole month of Black History, we love Black people. We love our Blackness, but we are focusing on Black love. So make sure you tune in every Sunday. We have some interesting things in our TPC News as we're looking at Black love. All right, Tab, I love you, but I know God loves you best. Take care. Peace.